Ahoy there, you hoity-toity hoi polloi. I don't know. How you doing, everybody? We're back. Welcome back to Make a Monster. We're gonna make a monster today. Exactly what it says on the tin. I'm gonna give it a minute. Let people trickle into the chat. How is everybody doing on this fine Sunday evening? Probably, one imagines, watching Game of Thrones. Well, if you're a big, stupid loser like me, and you're not watching Game of Thrones, I would love if you would come hang out with me and help me make this gargoyle. So I don't watch Game of Thrones right now. I used to. I read the books. I'm a big fan of the books and of the series. I'm not as big of a fan of the show. I think the show makes some important missteps where it shouldn't. But I also acknowledge that it's like maybe the hardest series to possibly adapt. But the point is that I want to read the books before I watch the show. So I'm sort of a books first fan. The conceit being that if I watch the show first, I feel like it's going to spoil some of my enjoyment of the actual product of the book when it finally comes out in 12 years. Plus, then I can avoid all the hype right now and just enjoy the show as it exists. When nobody cares about it anymore, right? Like it's like somebody watching Breaking Bad right now, right? Who cares? It's not really a big deal. So yeah, I am not watching Game of Thrones, and you probably are, and that's great. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I am gonna make this gargoyle today, and I will do Game of Thrones in like 7 years when no one cares about it. So last time on Make a Monster, we sort of made a monster. Well, we made the man behind the monster, or tried to. We were working on Erick Idylvain, Paul Van Oxen's character in the first arc of All Hail Yog, first and second arcs of All Hail Yog, and he was proving to be kind of difficult. The conceit here is that we're making 3 different monsters for the different tiers for like 3 different tiers of combat that the Dungeon Master could use in a campaign as a reoccurring villain. So you would have the CR5 version and the CR10 version, the CR15 version. I mean, you have this kind of like persistence that follows the monster the entire time. You can drop it multiple times in the campaign. We've talked about it a lot if you haven't seen. So with Eric, the conceit was to try to have the gargoyle be the only one that levels up. So Eric, since he transforms, remains a CR5. And his gargoyle form begins as a CR5, then becomes a CR10, and then becomes a CR15 eventually. But setting up Eric, a character who basically doesn't exist in a mechanical sense, he's just a guy with a knife, was proving kind of difficult. And so I had at least one good idea that I felt like was really strong, and I wanted to point out was an interesting mechanic that we can use. So I want to cover that first before we tuck into the actual gargoyle. But in the meantime, we are going to try to tackle at least one version of the gargoyle today. I'd like to try to get through all 3 of them, but I would be pretty surprised if we managed to do that. So let's talk about Eric first. The new ability that I came up with that I thought was kind of cool is called Pitiful. And the conceit here is that we were trying to find a way to, like, Eric has a couple of different ideas. He has this sort of quality to him where he's supposed to be unassuming and unthreatening at all times. You don't look at this guy and think, okay, this is a ravening monster. There's obviously some clues in his appearance and things that might give you that hint, but he's like as far away from the like wrecking ball god of destruction that is the gargoyle as you can physically be. And so we were trying to think of different ways we could iterate on this. And one of those was that he's basically this pitiful, like, lame, lamentable creature that you see and you don't really want to kill and you don't really want to interact with. Almost like a Smeagol kind of a character where he's sniveling and cowardly and begging for mercy all the time. So I had the idea that as a way to typify that, give him the ability that I like, is it kind of breaks some of the normal rules of how you do monster design in an interesting way. It's something I've not seen before. So he has an ability called Pitiful. All weapon and spell attacks that hit Eric deal minimum damage. So he has this interesting... He doesn't have resistance. He doesn't have, like, more defensive capabilities. But he has this weird supernatural aura about him where you just don't want to kill him. You don't want to put him out of his misery. You feel bad harming him. And so whenever you attack, you always kind of, even if you're not really thinking about it, end up going for non-vital areas or hitting him in non-vital areas. You can kill him. It's not impossible. It just makes it much harder. It's like a nice, clean mechanic that I have not seen anywhere else that I feel like adds to this sense of Erick's just sort of like pitiful, sad nature. We were toying around with the idea of using of several other abilities that he has in the game. So when we meet him in the Child, he's 10th level, so he's basically our CR10 version. But he has a couple of abilities that I have poached from other classes. So he has something called Feral Instinct, which we need to rename, which is a barbarian ability that grants him advantage on initiative rolls. I modified it a little bit and said that if he wins initiative, he can transform into a gargoyle as a free action. Meaning that if it's the first thing that happens in combat, especially if he gets the drop on someone, he can transform and go. He has the Survivor ability. Erick can dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus action. I might even add in an evasion-like feature here. The notion with Erick is that when he is not a gargoyle, especially at this low level, he is trying to escape the fight. He's trying to get away. He doesn't want to be pinned down. He doesn't want to be, caught and revealed to be the actual source of this monstrous destruction. So some kind of an evasion ability to make him just feel very slippery and like hard to pin down in any particular way would also help him sort of compensate for his pitiful ability, which seems powerful. But remember that any time he'd be making a saving throw against a spell, it would have no effect. So he would take full damage from a fireball, for example. So I'm debating putting in an evasion-like thing, but maybe not exactly evasion, because I want him to be a little bit more unique than just the spell or just the feature evasion. It could be all saving throws. He only takes half damage from all saving throws. Something like that. That's interesting. And then the other ability, there's two more things we want to talk about. The other ability is called Nondescript. And this one I don't really know how to mechanize, but I liked the idea of one of the regional effects that we wanted to associate with Erick and the gargoyle specifically was that the areas around where he hunts sort of become these like festering sinks of like paranoia and terror. People are frightened and worried that they know that the monster is a person, and they're kind of constantly going around hunting, trying to figure out who is responsible, who is the actual monster. And so we needed Erick then to have some kind of an ability that would thwart that like throws suspicion off of him. But it can't be anything too mechanized. I was thinking about something like he has, like all inside checks made against him have disadvantage. But the problem with that is that it immediately tips the players off that it's this character. We talked about the idea of the Friends spell perhaps being involved, that when he meets someone, he's able to make them think, at least for as long as you're talking to him, that he's not the monster. But the minute that he leaves your sight, you kind of reconsider that interaction. And something about him not being able to be tracked by magical means. If he does manage to escape, it's like harder to pin him down. He's good at like going into the woodwork and hiding. So Nondescript is probably the trickiest one here. I haven't like quite mastered it yet. But I wanted to add one more ability that I think is important. I'm going to call it Mark of Vengeance, because I think that is a cool name, or at least a good enough name. And it's like the kind of name that you see used for D&D monster abilities. Let's do a colon. Let's do a period. Yeah, nobody's here yet. Let me just check up on that real quick. Or if somebody's here, they're just not saying anything in the chat, which is definitely possible. If you're here, Brooke, or whoever, let me know. Let's see. So Mark of Vengeance was basically a mechanic I wanted to introduce that would allow Erick to transform, or that would allow Erick to, when in his human form, target an individual, basically for destruction later. Anyone who has wronged Erick or done sort of anything cruel or mean to him was my original thought. Oh, hey, what's up, Alan? Yeah, just you and me today, bud. Nice to see you. But the idea was that he could mark a target and then carry that information over into his gargoyle form. I think we talked about this last week. It might not have been my idea exactly, but I wanted to come up with some kind of a mechanic for it. Whenever a creature deals damage to Erick, he can spend his reaction to mark them. I want to look up how that's phrased. Basically look up Hunter's Mark and base it off of that. So let me look up Hunter's Mark real quick. Hunter's Mark. Oof, I'm hungry. I gotta get some dinner. Until the spell ends, you deal an extra 1d6 damage to a creature you can see whenever you hit it with a weapon attack, and you have advantage on perception and survival checks to find it. If the target drops to 0 hit points before the spell ends, you can use a bonus action on a subsequent turn to mark a new creature. To mark them. Might just say, to mark them. A marked target. Eric can mark up to 5 creatures at a time. I don't think it's like the Hunter's Mark where you can switch it between people, because I think it has people who deal damage to Eric. Yeah, so we're going to leave nondescript for now, because I think it's a little bit too difficult to grok. And we need to rename Feral Instinct, but we can come back to it. So let's go over here to the Gargoyle. So this is our CR5 Gargoyle. This is the first version. Oh yeah, I feel like we had some cool ideas that now I'm not remembering. Bloodlust. So it's all about that saving throw, right? I wanted to do a few things. I wanted to move Earthglide to CR10. Seems a little bit too complicated for now. He has False Appearance. He has Siege Monster. Yeah, the Hunter's Glory True Sight thing, this is Mark of Vengeance. So I don't think, and I want to make this clear, I don't think that Eric can, or that the Gargoyle can use Mark of Vengeance. I think Eric has to. So it's only targets that he has marked before. So it's the idea that he's out there living his life, doing whatever he's doing, and people bully him or harm him or do whatever, and then he marks them. And then when he's a Gargoyle later, he comes back and hunts them down. That's like a little bit more of his MO. Because again, you have to imagine that he's decoupled from Yogg in this scenario, that he's out doing his own thing and not necessarily, serving a greater master. He could be in your campaign, but we don't want to make that the default assumption here. Great. So he's got some kind of a version of Mark of Vengeance. Just something about like how he gains advantage on survival and perception checks to find them, and he can like tell if they're on this plane or whatever. Like I like the idea that he's like drawn towards them, kind of like locate object or whatever. Saving throw, and I like to be more powerful at nighttime, but I'm not sure how to do that. So, yes, and Fell Swoop. We wanted to talk about this different idea. The idea that he has sort of 3 progressively more powerful or complicated flying abilities at each level. So at CR5, it's one thing. At CR10, it's something else. At CR15, it's yet a third thing. So I liked the idea of, let's maybe try to break this down. Alan's name for it, I think, was Aerial Superiority. I do really like Fell Swoop, because I think it has the right tone. Aerial Superiority feels a little too modern to me, but I'll put it in here because I think that's a better name for like a catch-all ability than Fell Swoop. Great. So what are the different ideas we wanted to encapsulate here? So I think, I think Flyby Attack is a good one. There's something kind of nice, like, not that I don't, obviously I love when people come and hang out, but there's something kind of nice about like nobody being here. I don't really have to watch the chat, I can just sort of talk out loud and brainstorm. Flyby Attack, so can attack and fly away without provoking, right? We talked about like a battering ram or wrecking ball, which Alan's idea was to shatter on impact. And then we talked about what was the other one? Now I can't think. We talked about, there was one we talked about, but I had this idea of like picking somebody up and carrying them and then dropping them, right? That like if they hit with an attack, they can hoist them into the air, kind of like the eagle in the Hobbit. Hoist them into the air and drop them. I always like those kinds of abilities. I like using falling damage. I like when monsters think tactically, especially flying monsters think tactically about how they can fly and use that to their advantage. Especially monsters that like maybe don't deal the most damage. I had an encounter in my pirate game with harpies that I really liked, where there was a mechanic they could grab onto a target and hoist them into the air. But one harpy wasn't enough. So if you were grabbed by one harpy, then you were basically I don't even think it was restrained. It was like you had disadvantage on certain things. So you got this one bird like grabbing your hand, and if the other one got you, then they could pick you up. So it took 2 harpies to lift one medium-sized creature. And because harpies don't deal a lot of damage, the fun was them like carrying them over a gorge and then dropping them down the gorge. And if you were entranced by the harpy song, then you willingly let them pick you up or whatever. And it's not an attack, right? You don't take the damage until you fall, so they don't risk breaking out of the enchantment. Anyway, the point being that I like the idea of flying monsters, picking characters up and dropping them from a great height, especially if you combo with a claw or a bite. And Eric does do a lot of like biting and throwing people with his mouth, so it felt like it was appropriate. So Bloodlust was the thing we wanted to do that paired with the saving throw. That when he, oh yeah, that's right. There was a thing about how when he deals damage or takes damage, he doesn't have to make the saving throw, right? That was what the idea was, which I really thought was strong. When the gargoyle, I think they would probably all be bundled up under saving throw, but I think there could also be some kind of a thing where he gains temporary hit points whenever he kills someone. That seems a little ridiculous. There's also, it seems a little blah. There's also, like, this is ridiculous, it seems boring, the opposite of ridiculous. There's also something to the idea of, like, him dealing more damage or being, like, drawn towards targets that are already hurt. But I suppose he's going to be drawn towards the marked target, so that's not as strong. Him dealing more damage or having advantage on attacks against targets that have less than their full, kind of like Toll the Dead or whatever. So I like the idea of keeping the 0 hit points thing, because that feels like it's on brand for Eric. That's something that the gargoyle can do, is attack people who... or is when he gets rewarded for dropping enemies to 0 hit points. So he regains... But he eats them, right? Whenever the gargoyle... Let's just do this for now. There could probably be a cooler idea here. Juices a target to 0 hit points. He gains 2d6 temporary hit points. It's a little boring, but you get the idea. False appearance is fine. Fell swoop, arrow superiority. So the first one we want flyby attack. I'm going to look at something like trample. I guess, first of all, let me see if there is such a thing as flyby attack in 5e. Because if there is, we can probably just copy that. Flyby attack 5e. But I don't know. I have this thing where I don't always... I mean, I guess I just did it with false appearance. I don't always like taking abilities, especially spells, whole cloth, and just stapling them into monsters. Like, something about that, I don't know. I want the monster to have, like, a unique flavor. Yeah, Flyby. The owl doesn't provoke opportunity attacks when it flies out of an enemy's reach. That's fine. Let's look at trample. Because I think that's, like, closer to what I wanted. Trample. Oh, this is that's 3.5. I think the Warhorse has trample. What kind of monsters have trample? Triceratops. Here we go. Trampling charge. If the Triceratops moves at least 20 feet straight towards a creature and then hits it with a gore attack on the same turn, the target must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. If the target is prone, the Triceratops can make one stomp attack against it as a bonus action. So the way that trample works, it looks like... Hey, what's up, Sildari? Thanks for coming and hanging out. We appreciate you being here instead of watching Game of Thrones. The way that trample works is it looks like it's better for a creature that doesn't have multi-attack, because it says here that the conceit is that if they trample, they can knock them prone, and if they get knocked prone, then they can stomp them as a bonus action. I feel like the gargoyle has multi-attack, so there's not a lot of benefit. Knocking them prone, I guess. The trample mechanic almost feels like it works better for the snatch, right? That, like, if they fly their full speed and they hit with an attack, then they can grab the target and pick them up. So maybe we just start with Flyby right here. That seems a little boring, but let's start with Flyby. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Don't talk about it, though. I haven't seen it. Don't spoil me, please. If you have watched it, I have not watched in like 5 seasons or 3 seasons, so please, no spoilers. Oh boy, I just had the stats for this, and then I got rid of them. Here's the Triceratops. Let's go back to the owl. Yeah, we're working on the gargoyle right now, Sildari. Owl 5e. Oh no, you done spoiled me, dude. You done spoiled me. I one time you've all read The Hobbit, I assume. I'm about to talk about Hobbit spoilers. And I'll tell you why this is relevant in a second. But I don't want to spoil anyone if they don't want to get spoiled on The Hobbit. But I spoiled Paul on The Hobbit a couple of years ago. But like using it as an example of... We were talking about spoilers, and it was something about like, now... someone said, this isn't a spoiler, but blah. And we were talking about why that's a loaded statement, right? Anyone who says this isn't a spoiler is going to spoil you. And I said the only exception to that rule is The Hobbit, right? Like, because it's 70-some years old. Yeah, that's exactly what I said, dude. That's exactly what I said. Statute of Limitation is up on Tolkien. That it's a 70-year-old book. I'm allowed to talk about what happens in The Hobbit. And the thing is that I wasn't even like... It was just as an example, like The Hobbit, like telling someone that Thorin dies is not really a spoiler because Tolkien's been out for 70 fucking years. And Paul's face just fell and just looked at the ground. And I was like, did I just spoil you in my example of like what is and is not an acceptable spoiler? In his defense, it was like right around the time that the new movies were coming out. So like he hadn't read them and was just experiencing the movies for the first time. And I guess he like really liked Thorin as a character. And so he felt very like, yeah. So now I'm, terrified of doing it to anyone. But I agree. That was my whole point. Is the statute of limitations is up on Tolkien. You can talk about Tolkien. Okay, yeah. So the gargoyle, anyway, back to work, doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. When it flies out of an enemy's reach. So we're gonna save Fell Swoop and Arrow Superiority and stuff for next time. But I think yeah, it's maybe better if we can put this under some kind of a heading, because I'm worried about if we just stack new abilities on top of it every single time. I wish there was like a simple way to package it all together. Right, but we'll see. So I'll just go put it down here. How's the stream? Is it okay? I feel like it's glitchy a little bit again. I don't know why I always get these glitchy streams. So Flyby Siege Monster is good, so saving throw. Let's do Mark of Vengeance for now. The Gargoyle. Oh yeah, let's see. The target remains marked. Like 1d4 days or until Erick is killed. Yeah, for the Mark of Vengeance, like I feel like there needs to be a limit on how long you can be marked. I'm trying to think of like other monsters that curse like long term like that. 1d4 days. So like that way it's not like immediately that night. I mean, there's something kind of interesting about making it more like is marked until the next full moon or something like that. But that's weird to like couple that. Now that means like you as the DM have to know like when is the next full moon. You could shorten it. You could say 24 hours. But I feel like that... But that's kind of interesting because it gives the... Why, thank you, Sildari. I appreciate that. Yeah, we just had some weird glitching with it the past couple of weeks, and now I'm like extra jumpy. Target remains marked for 24 hours is what I want to say. But like, I think there's something kind of interesting about tying it to the night or the moon or whatever, right? Like, until the next dawn. But I feel like then if he marks somebody at night, he only has that night to get them for 24 hours. Or until they drop to 0 hit points. Yeah, or until they drop to 0 hit points. Reduced to 0 hit points. So if he drops you, then the mark goes away. Um, Erick cannot have more than 5 creatures. At any one time is generally how that kind of thing is worded. If you are N years old, where N is less than 25, you cannot get mad about spoilers for a piece of media that has been published for twice your age. Okay, that's interesting. I feel like you have to come up with that's like Walton's algorithm, like Walton's law, something like that, right? It has to have some kind of a fancy name. But so what happens if you're 26? Can you get mad about spoilers that have been published 40 some years? What's the 26 times 2? 51 years? 52 years. Wow, that took me way too long to figure out. Right? So if I'm 26, can I get mad at spoilers that are published 52 years? So I mean that's really Paul, right? He was older than 25. And he got mad about spoilers published like 70 years before. I like your theory, though. I like your law. I like how it's phrased. We're back here with the gargoyle. The gargoyle... my answer had a 1 in it. Yeah, I'm bad at math, folks. I apologize. Yeah, the older you are, the less of an excuse you have to get mad because you've had time. Yeah, that's smart. You've had time to read it, right? And he probably even made that point at the time. He's like, I love Lord of the Rings. I don't know why I never read The Hobbit, and it's my fault. Like, he wasn't like actually mad at me about it. I just felt guilty for having spoiled him, because he was clearly sad that he'd been spoiled. Okay. Mark of Vengeance. The gargoyle deals or has advantage on all attack rolls made. Maybe that's too much. Oh, reckless attack. That's right. That's another thing that he has that we gave him. He's got a lot of stuff here. I wonder if it's better to bundle some of these. So let's see. What are the good ones? So I think like false appearance, because I don't want it to be too chunky. I like the idea that the gargoyle is pretty simple. No, the gargoyle is never in the business of evading any attacks or running away. That's a good question. So flyby maybe doesn't make any sense, because if he's about just taking the hits, right? I'm just trying to think of like other flying type abilities. So we could give him like more of a trample. But yeah, we talked about this earlier with the aerial superiority ideas. I had 3 of them. So flyby attack, right? Can attack and fly away without provoking. It's like a classic aerial predator D&D monster ability. The battering ram, the shatter thing we talked about, which I like the idea of him like hitting walls and bursting through walls. And then this sort of eagles in the Hobbit, hoist them into the air and drop them ability, which we could get put here. I think is fine, but then I want it to like get progressively more powerful. So I'm not really sure the right way. You could do like, yeah, you could have it be that one of them is like if he moves his speed, like trample, right? If he moves his speed and hits a target with 1 attack that knocks them prone, basically like trample. And if they get knocked prone as a bonus action, he can do an extra bite or something like that. And then he'd have advantage since it's a melee attack. And then the second level, he can pick them up. He can grapple them, right? If he hits with a bite, then they're grappled, and he can, do whatever. He can spend the rest of his movement to fly with them. And then the third one is when he hits them, it creates like a shatter impact around the point of hit. And then you could call it Fell Swoop, which would be strong. Let's try that. Thanks for the guidance, Alan. Fell Swoop. Because it was feeling kind of boring. So get rid of this. So the way trample is worded is kind of how I want to copy this. Knocks fool prone if they're below his flight path. Oh, that's kind of funny. Interesting. You might have a tough time mechanizing it, but I like that. I feel like this happens a lot, where like you suggest something really interesting, and then I'm like, I don't know how to make it work. And then the minute the stream is over, I'm like, oh, like this. That's how you make it work. That's happened with Pitiful, where I was like, I can't get these ideas. And then I turned off the button, and I'm like, oh, it's this. This is how you do it. So I will probably like have an epiphany about a great way to do downwash next time. So let's look up trample 5e. I mean, we just write like if the gargoyle flies over their head, they're knocked prone. They have to make a saving throw to be knocked prone. Yeah, it's good though. It's totally solid. I get caught up on everything. I have to stop and explain why it does or doesn't work on literally everything. If the gargoyle moves at least. So his speed is 50 feet when he's flying. I think we've established. Yeah. So let's say if the gargoyle flies at least 50 feet. I'll give it half, 20 feet. 25 feet. So it's a little bit longer than the Triceratops one, but 25 feet. Straight towards a target. Straight towards a target. A creature. And then hits with a claw attack on the same turn. That target must succeed on a DC 13. DCX, but probably DC 13 strength. Yeah, DC 13 is actually exactly right because the Triceratops, as it turns out, is a CR5 monster. Strength saving throw or be knocked prone. If the target is prone, the gargoyle can make one bite attack against it as a bonus action. Oh, you know what? Let's not do the bite attack. So in 3rd edition, they had an ability called Rake, where if you hit with the claws, then you were able to just like get bonus damage just by scraping. So maybe there's something like that. Let me look up like Rend, I think is what it was in 3.5. Yeah, Rend was nasty. I think it was something about like hitting with multiple claw attacks let you rend monster. Yeah, if you strike you automatically deal damage. Just see, I think like Lions had it. The Giralon, yeah, the Giralon had it. I remember because it's got multiple arms. Rend. A Giralon that hits with 2 or more claw attacks latches onto the opponent's body and tears the flesh. This attack automatically deals an extra 2d4 plus 9 points of damage. Claw Bite. Oh, still dark. I never played 2nd edition. That's cool. I don't know any 2nd edition mechanics. Oop, I think we're getting some lag. That's better. Seems to be. Maybe it's Rake. Because the Rend didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. That's how you started? Good for you, man. Good for you. I started in 3. Alan, you started in 5, right? Rake. Oh, yeah, it's just separate attack. So I think, yeah, if the target is prone, a mid-air grapple attack. Oh, you started in 4th? I didn't know that. That's interesting. I love 4th. It's got a lot of problems, but I like it. A mid-air grapple attack. Yeah, that's cool. A nub. Could be... Maybe you make a point about, like, it has advantage on the claw attack if it's, Oh, yeah, dude. That's the... Sorry, that's, I don't know if you probably weren't here. You maybe on the phone for this earlier, but that's one of the things I want to do for sure is the hoist them into the air and drop them. So, yeah, definitely a grab and carry. That's in the plan. I just don't think we're quite there yet. I think right now it's hit, and then CR10, it's hit and grab, and then at CR15, it's hit and shatter. And grab, potentially. If the target is prone, the gargoyle can make... I thought you were saying, like, against flying targets. I kind of thought, like, that's interesting, too, that give him advantage on hitting another flying target. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No worries, dude. The target must succeed on a DC 13 saving throw or be knocked prone. If the target is prone, the gargoyle deals an automatic. Yeah. Oh, Yogg cannot be statted up, my friend. Yogg writes and rewrites the rules for Dungeons and Dragons every single time that you play him. It changes the way math works. Yogg cannot be fought in combat, alas. The gargoyle deals automatic damage. That's how it's worded with Rend and 4. Yeah, Yogg is a TPK. Yeah, exactly. Yogg is a TPK statted up. Yogg's AC is Oblivion. It's just like it's an abstract concept that your brain, like if you were to see Yogg's AC, you would instantly go insane. It's like a dark glyph. If the target is prone, the gargoyle deals an extra amount of damage. Because I don't like the idea of like a bonus action bite attack, because like it already has multi attack, so it's like not that interesting. But the notion is if it knocks you prone, then you're prone, and its bite attack, its normal bite attack, would be fine. You could do hits with either a claw or a bite. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting that you say that, Sildari. That's interesting that you would say that, is all I'm going to say. It's an interesting idea you've had there in the chat, Sildari. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. Or hits with a melee attack? It's with a melee attack. On the same turn. That target must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw, be knocked prone, or the target is prone. The gargoyle deals an extra, like 2d6 points of slashing damage on its next melee attack against the target. So it's a little boring, but the conceit is that it flies 25 feet towards the creature and then hits with a melee attack on the same turn. Yeah, exactly. Say nothing, sir. The target must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. If they are prone, the gargoyle deals an extra 2d6 points of slashing damage on its next melee attack against the target. So even if it like bites, so it has advantage on the attack because they're prone, and it can slash them up. It's basically like a rend. I think it's fine for now. It's a little prosaic, and then we'll make it cooler that like they knock them prone and they're grabbed, and they still deal damage if they continue to bite them, and then it can have a shatter impact as well. Okay, Mark of Vengeance. I don't think it has advantage on attack rolls. That seems kind of boring to me. It's like it makes the knocking them prone not as interesting. The gargoyle. So I think we like add the extra damage into the attacks. So the notion with Mark of Vengeance is it's like Hunter's Mark has advantage on saving on all perception and survival checks to locate its any marked targets. Locate a marked target. Locate a mark. I wanted to see, I want to look at locate creature. Because I want it to be a little bit beefier than, but I guess it only lasts for 24 hours, so you don't necessarily need, yeah, you sense the creature, the direction. Oh, I wanted to look at the Revenant. That's what I wanted to look up. That's the one I was thinking of. The Revenant has a really cool ability that, like, inexorably, like, draws the Revenant towards a target. I'm going to close some stuff. I don't think my computer likes that I have so many things open. Oh, yeah, I got to close that Audacity. I got a bunch of programs open. Vengeful Tracker. The Revenant knows the distance to and direction of any creature against which it seeks revenge, even if the creature and the Revenant are on different planes of existence. If the creature is being tracked by the Revenant dies, the Revenant knows. So I think we basically copy some of that over. I do think it has advantage on all perception and survival checks to locate a mark. But I guess if it knows the distance to and direction of any creature against which it seeks revenge, against which it's tracked or marked, it doesn't need to track them I guess if they're trying to hide, right? Like on all perception, we'll keep it just in case. It knows the distance and direction of any creature, marked creature, even if the creature and the gargoyle are on different planes of existence. If the creature dies, the marked creature dies. The gargoyle knows. Oh yeah, so the Revenant kind of already has some of this stuff. It does extra damage against them. Yeah, so it's pretty similar. It gets advantage on all perception and survival checks to locate a marked creature. How do we feel about the Bloodlust thing? So yeah, I think False Appearance makes sense. Siege Monster makes sense. Fell Swoop is there. Mark of Vengeance is good. We need the saving throw mechanic, but I feel like Bloodlust and the nighttime thing are just getting cluttered. I like the theme, like the thematic notions there. Do they just get introduced at higher levels to like further complicate the monster, or do we still try to keep them here at CR5? I'm leaning towards moving them away and putting them at higher levels, but I don't know. What do y'all think? What do Yogg think? We're going to take it out for now. And add it down here. And some kind of cool nighttime ability. So, yeah, we'll keep it a saving throw for now. I don't know what it's called exactly. Oh, yeah, that's cool. I was thinking about adding damage for the Mark of Vengeance, but we could not add damage to it. It could just be a matter of like knowing where they are and that being the MO. Bloodlust alternative. Instead of bolstering defense HP, it increases damage, adds a d6 or something for every kill. Yeah, that's kind of cool that like the more people it kills, the more deadly it becomes. That it's like a frenzy. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Do we think it's still good? So it would be like whenever the gargoyle reduces a hit, it gains a +1 damage. It deals an additional 1d6 damage on all melee attacks for 1 minute. And that stacks, right? So the more people it kills, the more damage it deals. This is becoming like an absolute monster right now. Maybe it's better rather than having it like rend with its claws. Maybe it's better if it knocks the target prone, that the target is then like restrained. Oh, like up to 5? Is what you're saying? They have been highly underestimated over the years. And, you know, you see him in the game and he's like just ripping people apart. Yeah, that's smart. I feel like 15 d6 on every hit is pretty terrible. Terrible as in like overpowered, right? But I guess it's probably not going to be killing 15 people a combat. Like most likely, yeah, that seems pretty whack. It's a really smart mechanic though. I like tying it to the CR. You could just lessen it, right? You could say like, well, it's also for 1 minute, right? So like it's not like the conceit isn't that it's like that forever or all day, right? It's 1 minute. So after 10 rounds, it like resets or whatever. You have to, and then ostensibly you have to like keep track of how many rounds it's been since you killed someone. But probably you're doing one fight and it's 5 rounds. It's half a minute, right? Like, I actually don't think that's that broken. I think maybe it's better for CR10 rather than CR5 right now, just to add some extra meat. But I think leaving it as it is okay, because you have to understand like the context into which the monster is going to be. You have to think about the context in which the monster is going to be used. Probably it's going to be fighting the PCs, and probably it's only going to drop 1 or 2 of them, maybe. I mean, it is a beast, right? But they're probably not going to be walking around with a bunch of NPCs. You could maybe set up an encounter that way, but I think that's a DM being smart. It's a DM saying, like, here's a bunch of peasants the, like, gargoyle attacks at the fair, and so it murders 5 or 6 people to really boost its damage and then comes in. Like, that seems cool to me, right? That seems like a good use of the monster. I don't know. Like, I kind of think it's fine the way it is. Is it potentially broken? Maybe, but again, I think it's better to go big and come back down. Good idea, Alan. I like that. Let's leave it for 10, but I think it's good. How do we phrase this thing? At the end of its turn, at the end of each of its turns, the gargoyle must make a Constitution saving throw. Must make a DC 10. So do we decide that it scales this saving throw, or is it the same saving throw every time? Because right now it's getting like a huge con bonus, like +7. So I feel like it could either just be a standard, like DC 13, which I think is going to be easier for a DM to track. A PC could maybe do it the way that Paul does it, but where it's like increasing difficulty. But I think it's better just to set a raw DC. I don't know, unless you want to like try to set it at 10 and then say it increases by 5 every round or something, but I feel like that's too much. We'll say DC 13 right now. So it's most likely going to succeed. To remain in gargoyle form. On a failure, it reverts back to Erick Idylvain. On a round when the gargoyle takes damage, or deals damage, or takes damage, it does not need to make a saving throw. Deals damage or takes damage, it does not need to make a saving throw to make this saving throw. So then you make the saving throw. Yeah. Maintain control, I feel like, is the name of it, something like that. Maybe a little bit more colorful. What do we think about Fell Swoop? I think that the knocking them prone is good. I want to save grabbing. My instinct is to save grabbing for later. We could put it in now, but then I'm not sure what you would do later. I mean, if you do grabbing now, right, rather than... Yeah, there's something kind of interesting about that. So if you do grabbing now, right, then rather than rending, like rather than knocking them prone, you grab them. Then next time you can say that anyone who starts their turn grabbed by the gargoyle takes blah, blah, blah. Like they can retain Fell Swoop, right? I'm not sure what you're referencing, pal. Saldari. I don't know what Tales from the Dark Side is. There's maybe a shape changer thing, but again, because it's sort of like the transformation, right? It's less a thing he does willingly. At least the gargoyle does willingly. Like the gargoyle is trying to stay. I think it grabs you. I think Fell Swoop is a grab, and then the next version of Fell Swoop has a like every round you start grabbed, you take damage, and then the highest level one, when he hits, it's like a shatter effect. And then like the epicenter of the person he hits takes the most damage, right? Let's make a DC 13 saving throw. So do you make it must succeed on a strength athletics check? A DC... Do you make it opposed on an opposed athletics check? Or let's see. The gargoyle can use its reaction. No, yeah. Must succeed on an opposed strength athletics check. Well, there's got to be some kind of some monster has this ability where if it hits with an attack, it grapples them without having to like make a check. That seems really weird. Monster grapple 5e. It seems weird that there wouldn't be a monster like that. It's a monster that can grapple. In the movie, she attacked a man, marked him, and told him never to mention it to anyone. And then he like turned into a monster. You could just do it hits with a melee attack. The target must succeed. Like the target is grappled, and just end it there. That target is grappled. Oh. That's crazy. Tales from the Dark Side. Huh. I've never heard of this. Weird. I'm gonna Google it. Tales from the Dark Side. It's an anthology, huh? He is a wonder. You can't say he's not. It's George Romero, funny. Yeah, like the Roper, I think, grabs people. Let me look up the Roper. I think it's like sticky. It's not claws. Tendril. Hit the target is grappled. I see. So what's another grappler? Giant toad is good grappler that deals damage. Because I think it's like, yeah, if you hit with the attack, then you just grapple. It's not like you have to make an athletics check, you know. If it moves and hits, then the target is also grappled. I think that's fine. Cloaker does. That's a good one. Yeah. So if you hit, the target is grappled. So that like he can't grapple unless he swoops. I think that's kind of neat. So and then hits with a melee attack. The target is grappled by the gargoyle. Escape DC whatever. Escape DC 13 or whatever. The target is grappled. Escape DC 13. That creature is grappled. Yeah, something like that. It's quicker too. Because then you could do something where round one, or like on the gargoyle's turn, it could fly half of its speed, hit you with the bite attack, claw attack, bite attack, and then fly up into the air with the rest of its movement. Like that's, right away. I think that's okay as far as its stats go. Like, what do we think? False appearance, fell swoop. Oh, I wanted to give it reckless attack. Reckless. The Minotaur has it too. It's a barbarian ability, like a version of it is a barbarian ability. Because it's a monster, we can just kind of do whatever the fuck we want. Minotaur 5e. Not the race, the monster. Hooked talons, grim grippers, mean-footed. Yeah, you got to get in there with those overwrought name ideas. At the start of his turn. Yeah. This is like super on brand for the gargoyle. Its turn. The gargoyle. Oops, shit. The gargoyle can gain advantage. Get this out of here. Sorry, folks. Gain advantage on all melee weapon attacks, attack rolls it makes during that turn, but attack rolls against it have advantage until the start of its next turn. Okay, cool. I think that's pretty solid. The gargoyle can make 2 attacks. I think it's the bearded devil has hurl flame. Hooked talons. I like fell swoop though. Fell swoop. It's a fell and a swoop. Fell swoop. I think it will translate well to other ones because it's about the dive bomb. I do like mean-footed though. The kid's got a mean foot. Oh, what's the one that has hurl flame? Somebody's got hurl flame. I just like the way they phrase it. Freet has hurl flame. Yeah. These 2 attacks. 1 bite. 1 with its bite. And 1 with its claws. Or it uses hurl flame twice. So bite. So question, do we think if we have the bonus damage, not currently, but if we have the bonus damage from Bloodlust coming in, I don't think we need bonus damage for we can maybe just like increase the dice damage for the Mark of Vengeance. I kind of like that. Sort of the one-handed, two-handed thing, right? So it's melee weapon attack plus, I gotta get the formatting. Alright, melee weapon attack, reach 5 feet, 1 target. Hit X XD6 plus X or X XD8 plus X against a marked target. So it's just like it increases the die by 1, right? And then bite is similar, claws are similar, and then hurl flame is similar. It's ranged. Is that a ranged weapon attack? Go back to the Efreet, how do they describe it? Seems like it's a ranged weapon attack, even though it's not really a weapon in the traditional sense. Ranged spell attack. +7 to hit. Whatever. We're going to give it 60 foot of reach. 1 target hits X. Yeah, if it's like 3d6 fire damage or whatever. So the bite would be piercing damage. The claws would be slashing damage. And then this would be fire damage. Oh shit. Or XD8 fire damage. Yeah. There's the gargoyle. At least the CR5 version. What do we think, lads? How do we feel? I feel pretty good about that. Now, it should be pretty easy then to copy-paste, right, some of these other than the 10 and the 15 and stuff. That's kind of why I wanted to say Bloodlust at nighttime, because I feel like that nighttime is just now the name of it. I'm sure it will have a different and better name. But that's what kind of I wanted to save those things to give us a little bit more design room going forward. Great. Gargoyle. CR10. I can think of different names for these. You can't just be gargoyle every time. This is the CR10 one. All that stuff is what it is. All that stuff is what it is. I can do all the math on this later. So I liked the idea that the CR15 gargoyle has immunity to. Oh yes, this becomes immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons. So a magic weapon is fine. And then I think that the CR15 gargoyle is immune to damage. Like, that seems crazy, but I think the point is that you have to stop him and not deal damage to him. That way he has to make his saves and not let him deal damage to you, right? You got to catch him with a hold person or something like that. Like, I think that's the key. That's the ticket right there. We could even maybe give him an ability at higher levels. We could put it at lower levels too, but give him an ability at lower levels or wherever that makes him specifically bad at wisdom saves or something like that. Like, kind of clue you into, like, charm him or do whatever, right? Like, that's the answer, not to fight him. But I think he's immune right now to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons. And then, let's see. Does he need to have a thing? Does he need to have a mechanic that explains, like, if he drops to 0 hit points, he turns back into Erick? I feel like he might need to. Because, there's something kind of cool about that. Maybe we talked about this? I don't remember. But then if you do that, whatever that's called, like reversion. Stone to flesh, maybe? If the gargoyle is reduced 0 hit points, he reverts back to Erick Idylvain. How is it phrased in transformation? Any excess damage that reduced the gargoyle 0 hit points carries over to Erick's humanoid form. Because then you could do a thing at higher levels where when he turns back and when he turns, there's like a burst of flame, right? That, like, anyone who's around him gets caught in this burst of green fire, which I think is neat. Cool. That seems like plenty for that gargoyle. So all this is the same. He's got immunity to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. Common, yep. He's got fell swoop. So now we say that any creature that starts its turn grappled by the gargoyle takes whatever the claw damage is, XDX or XDX if the target is marked, the creature is marked. Maintain control is all well and good. Maybe we make the DC higher on that, I'm not sure. Mark of Vengeance is all well and good. Reckless is good. Siege Monster. So I think it gets the Bloodlust thing here. Bloodlust. Whenever the gargoyle reduces a target to 0 hit points, it deals an additional 1d6 damage on all melee weapon attacks. On all melee weapon attacks. So not Hurl Flame, but on the claws and the teeth, right? Like, if it's in his hands, I think that's stronger, right? It's not necessarily just that he deals more damage, it's that the blood is in his face and in his eyes and on his tongue. False appearance is still the same. Fell swoop we changed. And then, we forgot to add in stone to flesh. So then we should call it transformation flesh to stone. Yeah. Although that's maybe confusing because there is a spell called that, but that's kind of neat. Or man to monster. Oh yeah, let's do man to monster and monster to man. Man to monster. Monster to man. Should change where it goes. Do you have any override names for that, Alan, that I'm not thinking of? Let's see. So this becomes man to monster. Or monster to man, excuse me. I like, yeah. I would love to hear them, because I think that mean-footed belongs somewhere in the world. Maybe not here, but somewhere. Any creature that starts, it's any creature adjacent to the gargoyle when this happens must make a... Any creature, or every creature adjacent. Any creature adjacent to the gargoyle when it reverts must make a DC X dexterity save. Yeah, that's true. Metamorphosis. That's not bad. There's also transformation, right? That's not bad. Or take XDX fire damage. And then you put it out to, like, you know, all creatures within a 15-foot cube or whatever. That's fine. Bloodlust is good. We're going to add in... Earth Glide in here. But I like the idea that the actual like stats for the gargoyle pretty much don't change. I mean, like the damage and stuff maybe gets better. He deals more damage, but like he attacks. He flies in. He makes 2 attacks, one with the bite, one with the claws, or he can hurl flame. Like he doesn't get more. Maybe CR 15 he gets another attack, right? But like, I kind of think it's cool that he just does what he does. Earth Glide. I forget how this is worded. Did I accidentally delete it? Poop. Time to go find it. Earth Glide 5e. There we go. Now we're really getting into the bullshit. Sarx is Greek for flesh. Lithos is Greek for stone. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's very cool. But I don't know if we want to alienate all people everywhere. The gargoyle can burrow through non-magical, unworked earth and stone. While doing so, the gargoyle doesn't disturb the material it moves through. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Mark of Vengeance is all still good. So my next question is about... yeah, right. I feel like that's maybe too much. My next question is about the nighttime ability. We had talked about the notion of him being more powerful at night in some way, but he already has so much power anyway. Like... a lot of defensive power, and he's like immune to damage or whatever, right? And a lot of extra damage is happening here. He's grabbing people and dealing extra damage. He's dealing, like, there's fire blasts and stuff. He's got some movement things. He's got Earth Glide. I like the downwash, but I don't know whether maybe that goes in the next level of Fell Swoop or if that's a separate ability. He's getting pretty hefty. But I feel like when he gets to 15, he's got to have at least one more new toy. And I feel like that's... he's got the Shatter, right? His Monster to Man will blossom out and be bigger. His Reckless is fine. He's got Maintain Control is fine. Yeah, Fell Swoop will get bigger. Bloodlust could go up to 1d8 if we want to really get nasty. We could, yeah. I think CR5 is good. I don't want to mess with it because you could go back and add Bloodlust into CR5 and have it be D4, D6, D8 is kind of interesting. But I think CR5 is good. We don't really want to mess with it. So what do we think the nighttime ability is? Like, he's somehow more powerful at night, but in what way do we further increase the gargoyle's power when we don't? We've already done this. So it could be something like weird and outside the normal Ken, he could turn you into a gargoyle, he could teleport, he could do something like that. That's not really in his bailiwick so far, so I'm like a little hesitant to add it. He doesn't have leather armor, he's natural armor. But you know what I mean? Like, what's another way we can, because I like the conditional nature of that it's not, it's not something you can use all the time. The DM kind of has to plan, like, oh, this is a fight at night, right, rather than a fight during the day. Spell resistance is good. Hey, there it is. Do we want to add that, though? Because at CR15, he's immune to damage. We could make him immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing and just leave it at that, rather than immune to all damage. Spell resistance is the right answer, I think, but I'm worried that will F with his with the preferred tactic, right, which is to cast a charm spell or something on him. I think it's good, though. I think that's the right answer. I just worry, does that make him too powerful? Does that make him unstoppable? Is that maybe the point? Spell resistance. How does it work? Tell me about it. Is spell resistance just advantage on saving throws? Am I not? Yeah. Not can't be charmed or held or whatever. Resistance to magical damage, yeah. What does spell resistance do? Why can I not find it? Oh, magic resistance, I think, is maybe the term. That's just the advantage on saving throws. The Rakshasa has some weird shit like that. Rakshasa's got some weird nonsense, rather than just because the angel and stuff and the golem have magic resistance, but they just have advantage on saving throws against spells and spell-like abilities. I think the Rakshasa has something specifically different that's weird and funky, which you might be able to pull. But I think that's right, because it has much more of a mystical component. It's not just here's more damage or here's more whatever, right? He's a cool name. Can't do blood. We have bloodlust. Let me go in and upgrade. This is the CR15. I think it's good to make him immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. I don't think he's immune to all damage. Maybe he's resistant to limited magic immunity. The Rakshasa can't be affected or detected by spells of 6th level or lower unless it wishes to be. It has advantage on saving throws against all other spells and magical effects. Limited magical immunity. That's I think that feels too much. Resistance to magical damage. The Rakshasa also has really interesting vulnerabilities and immunities. It's vulnerable to piercing from magic weapons wielded by good creatures, which is really interesting. Damage immunities from bludgeoning. And the Rakshasa has immunity, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. That's pretty solid. So we could do that. Damage from non-magical attacks. So non-magical attacks, does that mean from non-magical weapons? And what is the golem? I know that the like iron golem has that too. I feel like a lot of the stream is just like me looking up monster abilities, reading them out loud. I should gotta remember to bring my monster manual next time. Spell resistance is the right idea. It's just how do we iterate on it? You've definitely got it there, man. Because magic resistance is like not a big deal for monsters at this stage, so giving it to him just at night feels not powerful enough, but the point is you kind of want to encourage them to. But it also is interesting too that like if they face him once and they feel like the moon is like giving him power, that maybe it's better to try to take him at during the day, right? To like it changes the party's tactics in what I think is an interesting way. I would like to see iterated. I sometimes think that kind of thing is okay. It's kind of like I have a lot of tabs open. That's why it's being slow. It's kind of like the troll, right? Like the troll is almost unbeatable unless you know the trick. So if you try to go after the gargoyle at night, you know you're sort of your fault. How does the iron golem happen? So I need some kind of cool moon related name. I feel like a lot of these powers are M's. Maintain control, mark of vengeance, monster demand, moon blood, moon powers, lunar immunity. Iron golem. There's fire absorption, which is cool. Immutable form. His magic resistance. His advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. I feel like there's like something where it takes... Yeah, I don't know. It's immune to... Yeah, night's cool. The Iron Golem is immune to fire, poison... Oh, he should give him fire resistance. He's a fucking gargoyle. He's throwing fire around. So let's go immune, and then we'll go resist fire at CR 10. And then immune to fire at CR. Immunity! Jesus Christ. Someone arrest this man. Officers are en route right now to have you arrested. He's resistant to fire, and I think poison makes sense. And then he's immune to fire and poison. It's a gargoyle. From non-magic attacks... Yeah, that's fine. I think it would be like magic weapons. Immunity. Under the moon of slaughter. Hunter's moon. Something like that is cool. The witching hour. The gargoyle hour. Well, whatever. Put it under immunity for right now because of the silliness. Nocturnal Predator. I kind of like it having like more of a magical, mystical connotation. But Nocturnal Predator is solid. Immunity. Under, like, at night. The gargoyle has spell resistance at night. God, I feel like there's like a different thing than magic resistance where it's like you take less damage from spells, or I don't know. Maybe it's just... Why do I feel like there's another thing that I'm not thinking of? Has advantage on saving throws against spells and spell-like abilities. Spells and spell-like effects. How's it phrased? God, I know nothing. Revenant's still open too. I have too many windows open. On saving throws against spells and other magical effects. I'm just going to put it has magic resistance at night. I think it's kind of stronger wording. At night. When outdoors at night, the gargoyle. Yeah, because you need outdoors, right? When outdoors at night. Outdoors at night. At night. I kind of just like at night. Well, what do you define as night then, I guess, right? Like dawn or dusk? Does that count? They make a lot of bullshit about sun and sunlight. I feel like there's like at least one monster that is something about being outdoors. Werewolf. We'll come back to it, but it's something like that. We're gonna leave Bloodlust. I think Bloodlust is plenty powerful as it is. The creature is grappled, DC 13. Any creature that starts its turn grappled by the gargoyle takes. Creature is grappled. In addition, all creatures and objects within a 20-foot cube surrounding the target, surrounding and including the target, must make a DC X Constitution save or take 2d8 thunder damage. Oop. Objects have disadvantage on this save. Let's add advantage on this save. Can use his action to polymorph. Is it lycanthropy? Is that the thing I'm actually looking for? Werewolf lycanthropy. Because that's about the nighttime, right? I just trying to figure out like the language that you use to talk about the moon and night. Do you just say under a full moon? The gargoyle has magic resistance. Because I just don't feel like I think that's the right tone for sure, that he gets like mystical powers from the nighttime. But just magic resistance is so prosaic at this point. Like so many creatures at CR15 have it anyway, that like bundling it in with a conditional just makes it seem like you might as well just give him magic resistance. Like you know what I mean? I like that. I want that feeling. I want like a spell resistant thing, or like he's extra durable against magic in particular, but I don't know how to phrase it, Yeah. I'm not sure, folks. What do y'all think? While outside at night, the gargoyle has magic resistance, spell resistance. Oh, yeah, that's good. There you go. So you have to use a higher level spell. You got it. Man, you're solving all my problems today. Because then, yeah, it's similar to the Rakshasas thing, right? I still have this open too. Man, I have so many windows open. God. Yeah, it's similar to the Rakshasa thing, where even if you want to use Hold Person, you're going to have to like bump it up to like a 6th or 7th level spell. What do we think? 3rd? It's like a counterspell effect, like spells of 3rd level or lower have no effect. Probably that's too low. We could say 5th level. I think the Rakshasa is 6th, but I think that's the Rakshasa's like big bag. So let's maybe say 5th or 4th, either 3rd, 4th, or 5th. Because again, you are putting on a conditional, so I think you could just safely say that it has, you know, that it has, it's immune to spells below 3rd level, period. So I would say spells below 5th level after Nightfall. So it's not quite as good as the Rakshasa, maybe 4th. We'll say 5th, because it got the conditional. So after Nightfall, spells of 5th level or lower have no effect on the gargoyle. In addition, it has... Ooh, yeah, you got it, dude. Between sunset and sunrise. No, I think that's good. That actually is kind of elegant, I feel like. Because it's, I mean, elegant in its technicality. No, dude, you're killing it right now. You should just design this. I feel like I am just being like, I don't know how to do this. And then you solve the problem for me. That's all good. That's all good. If the gargoyles just your hit points, yep. Any creature within 15 feet of the gargoyle, when it reverts, must make a da-da-da-da. Yeah, I think that's all there. I think that's the gargoyle, folks. Or at least that's the stats for the gargoyle. Yeah, cool. Sorry, folks, getting a text. Okay. Great. So the next thing to do... Oh, legendary actions. Fuck me. Legendary actions. So there's legendary actions to do, and there's regional effects, which I think we talked about, but we could like get a little bit more depth on. The Blood Drinker is kind of cool as a name. Legendary actions? Yeah, legendary actions are really fun. I want to talk about the Blood Moon as well. It's basically the regional effect. It's like a thing that happens. An event we can include. Okay. So, legendary actions. The CR5 does not have them, but the CR10 does. As does the CR15. So, legendary actions. He is just like a bruiser, so I like the idea of him having an attack. One of them just being a boring old attack. You know, that's like his whole bailiwick. I feel like I've said bailiwick 4 times today. So some kind of an attack feels right, because he's not very elegant. I don't feel like he's very nuanced. Although there's a lot going on right now, anyway. So, attack, or whatever it's called, the gargoyle makes... Does it do a full attack? I feel like that's too strong. Makes a claw or bite attack. Makes a bite attack. It's a claw attack. It's fine. Ooh, could break a non-magical weapon when struck by it. That's neat. That's really neat. Is that a trait? Is that a reaction? I kind of think that might be a reaction. Do you put it under legendary actions, or you just make it a separate reaction? There's something kind of cool about, like, hitting him. Yeah, okay. Because reactions are usually another category. Do we make that CR10 or CR15? Let's just type it up and then we can decide where it goes. Because if it's in one, then it's in both. Reaction. I want to call it like Sunder Steel or something cool like that. That, or you go like Impenetrable Hide. Once per day, yeah. That's tricky. Well, let's write it up. Sunder Steel. I think the thing is though that like if we put it at 15th level, then I think that's fine because then you don't need to give it once per day because he's immune to the damage anyway. Right? Like you should have learned your lesson. You dealt no damage to him, so stop trying to attack him. It's just not going to work, right? Because here he is. Yeah, he's immune to non-magical weapons anyway. So I think hitting him with a non-magical weapon is just fine, and like having it be because you're not going to deal damage. So not only do you not deal damage, you might break your sword. And if you continue to try to hit him with a non-magical weapon after that point, then that's on you, right? Like, so this is a question with breaking weapons: do you have it be like a rust effect? Like it petrifies it, it turns it to stone, like the rust monster. Because like it's that like you need to include a saving throw of some kind, but you can't really have the weapon make a saving throw for the most part. You don't usually do that. The rust monster imposes like a rust counter essentially on your weapon. That's the only like comparable I can think of. Because you don't. This is the problem that they had with 5e, where they didn't want to like have stats for weapons and things. Like that's crazy. The creature can make a DC 13 Dexterity saving throw to avoid the rust monster's touch. If the object touches either metal armor or a metal shield being worn or carried, it takes a permanent and cumulative -1 penalty to AC it offers. Armor reduced of its AC to an AC of 10 or a shield that drops below +0 is destroyed. If the object touched is a held metal weapon, it rusts as described in the rust metal trait. So, Dex save, yeah. When struck by a non-magical weapon, the gargoyle can force its wielder to make a DCX dexterity saving throw. On a failure, the weapon is destroyed, is shattered. I think shatter steel is better than it's destroyed. Yeah, right. By a non-magical melee weapon. Shatter steel. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that. I'm going to call this Chomp, and we're going to say it's a bite attack for its legendary actions. Nice work, Alan. Yeah, you're the MVP for sure. Cool. Gargoyle makes a bite attack. That's the really obvious one. That's one. Is this a good place for downwash? Like it moves, and anyone it flies over is knocked prone, potentially? Right? I don't know if I want to call it downwash, because that's such a chopper ability, or a chopper term, but downwash. The gargoyle flies at speed. Anyone it flies over, any creature it flies over. And it still provokes opportunity attacks, right? Because any creature it flies directly over must succeed on a DCX strength saving throw or be knocked prone. Is that 2 actions? It feels like 1 action. Nah, it could be 2, I guess, because but it's just moving. It doesn't deal any damage to you. It just knocks you prone. It's kind of nasty, too, because if it does it like right before its turn, it can knock a bunch of PCs prone and then go in, right, with the claws. Getting knocked prone, like, in between turns is especially mean. Okay. It needs 1 more. So this has got to be like a crazy break the bank type thing. For the doctor, we had what? We had the monologue. Elizabeth did something. She, like, moved. They could move to each other, I remember. We have a movement. I feel like it's something with fire. is like my instinct. What does the doctor have? I gotta put the legendary actions in there. Yeah, where are our legendary actions? Here we are. Lover's Bond. Dr. Hubert or Elizabeth can move their speed as long as they end their turns nearer to one another than when they started. Oh yeah, Bioelectric Overload. Elizabeth blasts out with lightning in all directions. Each creature, excluding Dr. Hubert, within a 15-foot cube originating from Elizabeth must make a DC X dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 2d8 lightning damage, half as much on a successful save. Elizabeth regains hit points equal to the individual damage dealt to each creature. Riveting Lecture. Dr. Hubert monologues incessantly. One creature within 30 feet of Dr. Hubert who can hear him must make a DC X wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the target must spend its action listening and taking detailed notes. That's very funny. So it could be a big blast, like a big fire blast, but I feel like we kind of have that covered somewhere else. We have the flying. We have like a movement one. It could be like a flurry of blows, right? Like a savage fury. It could be. Is this something about like destroying a building or like collapsing the roof or like because he's such a destructive, and it's all about breaking objects and things, right? He could pick up like a rock or a boulder and throw it at you, but that's kind of boring. Like. Oh, that's cool. That feels like a lair action, but yeah, it could be like an earthquake kind of a thing. I feel like it would knock people prone. I mean, I like the idea of him like breaking the building, you know, like assuming that they're in a building or a dungeon or something like that. But I guess that like, does he cause rubble to fall from the ceiling? He could do like a roar as well, potentially. Yeah, I like it being magical with stone. Like all the stone nearby crumbles. But if there's no stone around, it feels kind of limited. It's like limited by your environs. It could be something with the ground because like, you're presumably on the ground, right? Like if you're not, that's pretty extraordinary. An earthquake. Oh. The resonant frequency of stone. That's pretty fucking cool. So is it similar to Shatter then? Like maybe that's where we put Shatter is here, that he roars and it causes that thing? Because we could put like Thunder Wave or something up above. Because I like that if he hits, it like pushes people rather than it breaking stuff. So yeah, let's do Shatter. So he roars, Sonic Roar or whatever. Shatter Stone, I almost want to call it. But then we have Shatter Steel up there. The gargoyle roars at the resonant frequency. Like roars. Saying resonant frequency is like the correct term, but it doesn't feel fantasy. I'll put it for now. The resonant frequency of stone. So I could see it being that you can have to save against it like you would Shatter. I could still see you taking thunder damage. That's really low, right? Or is it really high, the resonant frequency of stone? I feel like it's like a subsonic sound. Like he opens his mouth and you don't hear anything, but right? Like I don't know anything about the resonant frequency. Oh yeah, that's cool. All flames in a mile radius. All flames in a mile radius? That's pretty neat. Very Batman, right? The lights go out and it goes boom. I like the roaring at the resonant frequency of stone. Oh, that's so cool. But yeah, how do you mechanize that? Like all the ground becomes difficult terrain within however many. If there's a stone ceiling above, it like breaks and rains rubble down. I think that's fine, right? That like it turns the ground to because even if like you're in like a building that like if you fucks with the stone, then it like fucks with the floor, right? So like I like that it doesn't attack you. It hits everything else. So like all the ground within within 60 feet, or a 60-foot radius around the gargoyle, centered on the gargoyle. In a 60-foot radius. Break foundations is pretty good. Yup. Nice work, dude. Radius of the gargoyle becomes difficult terrain. Any stone ceiling overhead cracks and rains rubble down. All creatures within that 60-foot radius must make a DC X dexterity saving throw. On a failure, they take XDX damage and are restrained, buried beneath rubble. That takes 3, I think. Yeah, cool. Escape DCX. Nope, shit. With the kidney stone condition. I love the idea of that like, because they always do those little like sketches, right, in the inside of the screen, and so it's like, like exhausted, frightened, grappled, kidney stoned, right, and it's like a guy like, and it's like a spell. It's like a condition that a spell could impose on you, right? Like, oh no, there's a wizard casts it. Flesh to kidney stone. Yeah, horrifying. Okay, great. That's the gargoyles' legendary actions. Cool. And then, so let's talk about the regional effects we have. I think those are pretty solid. I want to talk about the blood moon a little bit. So we talked about this before. This is something we can include in the packet. So here's our. We can maybe like word these regional effects, but this is what we had. Oh, we should put the legendary actions here too, because they're in both places. Legendary actions. Is that a thing? Do a lot of monsters that have like lair actions also have legendary actions? I feel like the Kraken has legendary actions, right? Kraken 5e. Because I know the Tarask doesn't have lair actions because it's just kind of a yeah, it has both. Okay. Just checking. And the Kraken's also CR23, but you understand. So regional effects. Now these ones are kind of different because we're not doing lair actions, right? The notion is that it's regional, so they're more flavor than anything else. Because we don't really want the gargoyle to have. I don't think the gargoyle has a lair. It wanders around. So, the populace. Ooh, Water's Blood is cool. Is infected with paranoia. That could be cool. Yeah, I like that. Is infected with paranoia. They tear their communities apart. Angry mobs prowl the streets. There are daily hangings, daily trials and hangings, daily accusations and hangings and trials. Accusations and trials and hangings. Sunder social contract. Not trails, trials. I like, so Night holds a special terror, I think is interesting. So the Water to Blood is cool. I think that's maybe something we can do on the Blood Moon, which I think is like an event, rather than it being a regional effect. because I feel like that would have like huge and terrible, profound effects. I mean, wine to blood could work too, but I like these being a little bit less immediate and corporeal. That like you don't, it doesn't look like the place is cursed, but it's the way everyone is acting, you know. So night holds a special terror. People shut themselves. Villagers shutter themselves, yeah. Villagers bar their doors at dusk. No inns or taverns are open. Everything in town is shuttered an hour before nightfall. Hour before nightfall. And I like this last one. I think this was your idea too. Everyone slain by the gargoyle languishes in spiritual torment. No one... Or the gargoyle's victims, yeah. The gargoyle's victims languish in spiritual torment. Can you say languish like that? I feel like that means like relax. Anyone slain by the beast cannot be raised from the dead until the gargoyle is defeated. Okay, I like that. Very flavor, but I think it gives you that gothic village under siege kind of tone that you want. We still don't have a name for the moon thing. Immunity. And then we talked about the blood moon. So the blood moon is, I think, like, again, similar to Breath of the Wild, a thing you can like spring on a party, right? Like it's a good way to like introduce, or like the thing you build up to. So yeah, like animals acting weird. I think we can add the wine water to blood thing. So it's like one night when everything goes bad and the gargoyle's like on the rampage. Maybe you add that as like a second, like a fourth regional effect, that like every full moon in the region is a blood moon. So it happens like frequently enough so it'll probably have like more description and stuff once we actually like get into it, but blood moon, like a night of terror. Nope. Under social contract is so funny. Night of terror. God, why can I not spell? My God. Once every, it's like 2 weeks, right? Is the full moon? Moon hangs red and evil in the sky, casts a paranoia, a dread and a paranoia. Oh, every 4 weeks. Dread and a, yeah, you're right. It's every 2 weeks from new to, yeah. Noia over the land. Effects. So it has like angry mobs we talked about go patrolling. I think it's even like more than angry mobs, like they just start like burning buildings down. Goes burning down buildings in the area, like indiscriminately. All animals act violent, lashing out at people. All, I kind of like it, like, because all water turning to blood is like really nasty, but I think you're right that all wine turning to blood is creepier. Turning to blood, turns to blood. There's a magical paranoia effect. The characters must save against. The gargoyles on the rampage. Yeah, you think so? You think water is better? I think the notion of it being like a celestial event that yeah, I don't want to say this. There's a character that we might introduce later that would be more appropriate for. So let's not go into it. All water turns to blood. Yeah, let's maybe just get rid of it. I think it's cool. I like with the blood moon. Rampages around. Killing at will. I have like 2 or 3 other like weird effects because it feels like this sort of night of mania, right? And like other things that the party could encounter that they might have to deal with. So it's like fires and angry mobs and sort of violent animals. Oh, the other statues? That's kind of neat. The statuaries walk. Having them attack people feels wrong, but having them like they could crumble or they could be the gargoyle's eyes or something like that. Statuary acting all weird. Statuary acting weird. Attacking feels lame. Moving. Crumbling. Oh yeah, that's neat. It doesn't... Yeah, I think it's a good flavor thing. Statuary all broken. Let's put it under Angry Mob. Breaking all statuary. Yeah, they're going around, they're burning down houses, people they suspect, they're breaking every statue that they find. Is there something with, like, priests? Because there's, like, or the faith... Like, there's something about Erick that has always had kind of a religious connotation, that he used to be an acolyte. So, is there, like... You know, you don't want to tie it to any particular god. You don't want to, like, give it an Atham-Hotep type thing where, like, divine spells don't work. Because that's kind of an Agnamaw's wheelhouse, too. But I feel like there's, like, something there, you know? Like, something with priests or clerics, angry mobs, weird statues. I feel like one more cool thing. Madness, paranoia, mania, violence, terror. Like a kind of a fear effect, or like a blood rain is too much. Because you have the mania, so you don't need a fear, right? I think it's like a combination of both. Augury is divine spell. Yeah. Maybe expand out all divination spells. Yeah, spells just show blood and woe and death and the gargoyle. Like, they don't show where it is, but it just shows, like, the gargoyle reigning supreme. That, like, yeah, all you see is sort of apocalyptic visions. It's kind of interesting, yeah. Oh, nightmares and dreams, too, right? Anyone who tries to sleep is racked by nightmares. Disadvantage on the paranoia save if you try to sleep. Yeah, I like that. That's like the big thrust of my Tomb Annihilation campaign right now. I got rid of the Death Plague and made it a Dream Plague. Everyone has spooky nightmares. Yeah, cool. I like that. It feels so Darkest Dungeon to me. Like, I can hear the Darkest Dungeon theme playing in the background, which is, like, very on brand, right? Like, that's the whole idea. The character is inspired by that. Great. I feel like that's the gargoyle So I feel like that's Eric. We could come back to Eric real briefly and touch on some of his stuff because I don't know if we quite got the nondescript power down. That's like the only one that I feel like I want some better notion on. But I don't know how to do it. I like them. The idea that Eric can blend into a crowd, I like. You could include Cannot Be Tracked. We already have Pitiful Somewhere. We already have Survivor. And we have the like initiative thing, like acting quickly and responding quickly, like that he's jumpy. So we need that he's nondescript. We need that he's like not drawing your attention, you know. Something. Uncanny ability to blend into a crowd. He cannot be tracked except by magical means. Yeah, because it's all player facing. That's the trick, right? If you want to do something with like insight, we talked about this before. Like insight checks have disadvantage, doesn't work because that will tip the players off. It's something interesting with like short-term memory, where like you forget about him after a certain amount of time. But again, you can't make a player do that. You like. Is there a way to keep it like behind the screen, right? Like if the players like roll insight on him and they think they succeed, like it could be like a paranoia thing. Oh yeah, that's interesting. So you're saying that Eric being reduced to 0 hit points turns him into the monster? Because I feel like then you would just be in this like loop, right? Because if he's reduced to 0 hit points, then he turns into the monster. Oh, sure. So, sorry, we talked about this last time. I see what you're saying. My thought with CR15 version of Eric is that he has become sympathetic. That, like, I mean, you could still potentially kill him, but you don't encounter Eric. You encounter the monster, right? At that point in the game, the monster has taken full control of him, and Eric is sort of like the win state. That if you can get the monster back to Eric, then Eric pleads with you, like, help me, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm a terrible monster. So I feel like if you set that up, then you would just end up in this situation where they would recursively loop. Like Eric, when it reduces 0 hit points, turns into the gargoyle when it reduces 0 hit points, turns into Eric. Like Eric has to be the base state, right? So yeah, I think you encounter him. That's a cool idea, and I think you encounter him as the gargoyle, and then the victory condition is to bring him back to Eric. If you kill him at that point, that's kind of your call. But I was saying, like, is there something with like a weird paranoia effect for nondescript where, like, this is a little off the beaten path, but a successful insight check against Eric reads as a failure. A failed insight check reads as a success. I mean, it does make sense, but let me get there. So the notion being that, like, if you roll an insight check and you roll a high number, it seems like he is not guilty. But if you roll a low number, it seems like he, like, you just switch the math. I don't know how to mechanize that, but it's something that Hallie did, my fiance did, in a one shot she ran. She's kind of playing with paranoia. That what you're doing is you're playing against the player's expectations of how the dice work. And so the notion is that, like, when they roll an insight check and they succeed, they get a 15 and it says he seems legitimate. That, like, all it's doing is it's flip-flopping it, right? That when you... I don't know how to make that just not on its face unfair. Because, like, there was in the Labyrinth adventure kind of this pervasive sense of paranoia anyway. And it didn't quite come out in the way that she wanted, I don't think. But something like that, like, he flips the script on the insight check or something like that. Some way to keep it behind the screen. I just need a mechanic that keeps suspicion off of Eric, and I don't know if there's a way to do that, really. You know? I don't think this works, but it's something like that. It's like... like, you have to fail the insight check to get the right answer, you know? I don't know. That might be too far out there. I just need something that, like, if we're playing into the notion that these people are hunting down the murderer, hunting down the monster, why haven't they found him? Right? Like, what is it that keeps Erick from being detected? If this is a kind of a cat and mouse game of who's the real werewolf, this guy who's, like, shivering and covered in scars and, like, or his clothes are all tattered is, like, obviously going to be the suspect. So what do you do to keep him from, like, being caught or being, like, found out, you know? I just like the notion of, like, a mechanic that described somebody who was instantly forgettable, you know? Maybe that's just not possible. Which is fine. I'm just trying to figure out a good way to make it work. You can't do disadvantage on inside checks because they'll know. The friends thing only grants him advantage on charisma, and he's got bad charisma, so he would still just come out average. He can't be tracked, I like. He should be, but I feel like if he's weakest, if in this state he's at his weakest, right? That when you encounter him, if you figure it out, it's easy to just go to him and kill him, and that's the end of the game, right? Like, there has to be some amount of hunt. There has to be some amount of... yeah, that's pretty good. But even then, if you had some kind of a mechanic like this, right, like innocence or something like that, that then it's all the more succulent when they find out that the mob was right, you know? And they should have killed him because he's a monster. I just need something that, like, plays against how suspicious he is. I mean, maybe I don't. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's all in roleplay. But I just liked the notion of that's one of the core things about Erick is his, like, how different and how unassuming he is from the thing he becomes, right? Like, his own, like, banner-like sort of weakness. But you're probably right. I mean, I think I'm probably trying to reach too far, and this is something that can absolutely just be done with flavor. Yeah. I'm going to highlight it. I think it's probably for the cutting room floor. Can I put yellow there? Does it look weird? Yeah, it looks terrible. But something. But I think otherwise we have him, right? I think he's here. I don't think he should be too complicated. I think he's mostly about marking people and maybe turning into the gargoyle right away. And if you do manage to get him down, and again, this will be the thing where I'll turn it off and it will occur to me. Yeah, see, that's kind of what I mean. There's something interesting to me about that you would end up siding with this person and then being proven wrong, right? That, like, the village knew better than you did. I just don't know how to do that, like... Is there something with, like, the Ring of Mind shielding or something like that? Does he have some kind of power like that? Like, because I feel like they're gonna... Zone of Truth would come up right away, right? Like... You're immune to magic that allows other creatures to read your thoughts, determine whether you are lying, know your alignment, or know your creature type. I think if he just, like, has that, if he's, like... Yeah, something like that. If he just has... But then the question is, like, what... If somebody tries to cast Zone of Truth on him, why is he immune? Like, isn't that like, an indictment of guilt anyway, right? You know, if it's like, okay, somebody in town is a werewolf, let's cast Son of Truth on everybody, and then one person's like, oh, you can't cast Son of Truth on him. Like, how do you communicate that he's immune? Does it just, like, read as a different thing, you know? Does he read as neutral good or whatever whenever you do it? How does it come up? Because I think that might be the right answer, is something with that, because that already is there. If you cast Zone of Truth, Zone of Truth on Ring of Mind Shielding. Here, Jeremy Crawford's got some stuff. I'm like really getting into the weeds. A Ring of Mind Shielding and a Zone of Truth have no effect on each other. That doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? That's what Jeremy Crawford says. The Ring of Mind Shielding says you are immune to magic that allows other creatures to determine whether you are lying. Isn't that what Zone of Truth does? I guess it compels a creature to tell the truth, and it tells the caster if the creature failed their save or not. I would argue that the part of the ring that says determine whether you're lying falls under the second part. Yeah, and then somebody makes the point, like, can you give an example of another monster class or location that uses magic to, quote, determine whether you are lying? That seems very weird to me. Because I think the Ring of Mind Shielding might be what I'm looking for, right? It's like a way to, like, stay off the radar. Because it also determines your creature type, right? Like, if he's a monster. He is immune to... Maybe he has advantage. Maybe he's not immune. He has advantage on any saving throw. Any saving throw that would read his thoughts, determine whether he's lying, which by my read would be Zone of Truth. Know his alignment or his creature type. Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's about how sad he is. I don't think he's devious. I think it's that he's sad and you wouldn't expect it, right? And that he's pitiful. I don't know, it's kind of complicated because, like, he changes, right, is sort of the way that we talked about it. That, like, he goes from wanting the power and needing the power, which I think comes from a sad place. It comes from a weakness in him, right? And from a need to, like, right wrongs. And I think, I don't think the thing is, it doesn't even matter, he doesn't have to be immune. I just wanted to give him a tool to help him in the situation where they are investigating who is the monster. Because I just feel like that's inevitably what the Erick Idylvain adventure is, right? As you describe, you see this guy and he's going to be burned alive at the stake, and the players intervene and they want to know, like, why and what did he do, and they want to talk to him, and they talk to him and this, right? Like, I don't think he, like... Yeah, but I guess that's true. Like, is he lying? You know, if he gets questioned about it. Presumably he is. He's trying not to tell the truth about it. So, I don't know. I just think he needed something that kind of did that. I think it's more about how sad and pitiful he is than it is about how devious he is. It might not be perfect. I think it's good enough for now. And then maybe when I come back and punch in the numbers, I'll have a new idea on it. Great. Well... Unless anybody else has any other ideas, and by anybody else, I think it's probably just you at this point, Alan, but that's cool. People are watching Game of Thrones. I think we're going to call Erick there. I feel like that's pretty good, at least for the base stuff. So the next thing I need to do is like, go and, even with Desdemonia, and especially with Dr. Huber, I have to go and, like, systematize all of this. There's a lot of numbers need to be punched in. A lot of things still need to be designed, but that's more on my end. Well, no. The thing is, dude, is that, like, I want people to be able to watch this, right? We get some of our views come afterwards, but yes, you're the only person here currently. Yeah, great. So I will systematize some of this if you're still watching, folks. And then I think next time, I'm not sure if we're going to stream next week because I don't know if because we had to cancel Dungeon Crawl next week because of Mother's Day next Sunday, so I may not stream next Sunday, just dependent on people being around. Plus, Game of Thrones, anyway, is sucking away some of our viewership, I feel like. So, but when we come back, whether that's next week or the week after, I think we're going to do some, what was I going to say? We're going to do some world building. So there's a campaign that I would like to run after Yogg that I need to start laying some groundwork and working on that. So I think I'm going to do at least 2 weeks of world building and then go back and start doing some villains. So we'll probably do Ernst after that point. Whether that's next week or 2 weeks from now, I'm not sure. I'll talk to Twitter, talk to patrons, see what's going on, and get back to y'all. But cool. That means we have done the first 4 villains, which is pretty exciting. This is a 43-page document. Holy shit. So yeah, there's a lot more work that needs to be done on my end, but I think it's pretty cool to have them done. We've got 4 more villains down the pipeline eventually. Some of them are going to be interesting. Like, I don't really know. I can't decide whether Skura is going to be boring or fun, because she's just a dragon, right? She doesn't have any special fancy abilities. Like, maybe it's kind of fun to like redesign a monster that already exists. Narcine will be interesting too. I mean, Ernst is going to be weird as hell. I think these next 4 are going to be really unusual in a way that the first 4 just weren't. You know, there's like not a lot new going on. Or there's so many weird abilities that I don't think necessarily quantify well in Ernst and Narcine. And even in Phantasmagoria, I think is going to be interesting. I can see some similarity between Phantasmagoria and Agdama, though, with a lot of the like control type stuff. Great. Well, if you are still watching, besides Alan, which I still appreciate you coming, but if you are watching this on yeah, I don't know what Ernst is going to be like either. I mean, is necromancy and illusion, right? Is like primarily his stuff. So I don't know how we split that difference. He's a fashion designer, right? Like, what is the mechanic? I want some kind of mechanic in some way to like iterate on that, but I don't know what the hell it could be. Yeah, but if you were watching, thanks for coming all the way to the end of the video. We will either be back next week or 2 weeks from now. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and as always, happy adventuring. I'm gonna turn off the stream now, so get out of here. Get out of here. Go. It's the end credits of Ferris Bueller, right? Go. You're still here? Get out of here. What are you doing? Ferris Bueller jokes.